So can women over 50 pull off a dramatic makeup look? I think so, but you need to keep a few things in mind. A couple weeks back, I posted a short video showing different ways of applying cheek color, and I got so much feedback that they just loved that makeup look. So I thought I would do a tutorial on how I created that look. Something to keep in mind is that I use a ring light. And so while that is not the same thing as a filter, it definitely impacts how I look. Let me show you. Things are not quite as impressive without it. The focus isn't as good. I don't have the soft, ethereal glow. The wrinkles are a little more obvious. So, the reason I show you that is because I don't want you to be so hard on yourself when you see TikTokers and YouTubers with their makeup tutorials looking absolutely flawless. It has everything to do with their lighting, their camera, and occasionally filters. Hey, I'm Michelle Fox from Michelle Fox Beauty and Michelle Fox Online. And this week we're going to have a step-by-step tutorial on a dramatic eye makeup look. However, a funny thing happened to me today. I made probably the best video of my career, was in the editing room and realized that I didn't have a mic on. So there is no audio at all. I was so discouraged, but rather than reshooting it, I am just going to talk over it because it was really, really good. So bear with me because my lips aren't going to match what my voice is saying, but we're going to get through this. And I think you're going to learn quite a few things because I like to talk about why I do the things I do so that you can apply it yourself. First of all, this is very, very up close and personal. So you know I'm not using a filter. But I will show you what it looks like with the light in a sec. Anyway, I'm using a matte, light, sort of a vanilla shade. It's called Biscotti. I like to apply it real close to my brow and also on the mobile part of my lid. And I use sort of a patting motion because I like to deposit quite a bit of color, assuming that as I continue to layer and blend that I'm going to buff off some of it. And I really like that light color to pop. My eyes are very different. I talk about that all the time. And I'm also trying to emphasize my brow, but not so much the fleshy part of my eye. So I don't bring the color all the way to the end of my brow. I keep it maybe the first 2/3 ish. And the eye that has a little less of the lid showing. All right, here we go. Here's how different it looks like when I back up. That's because of my ring light. So when you think I look amazing, this is what I look like for real. Anyway, so I was coming back to, I don't want to emphasize the fleshy part of my lid, but it really depends on how much lid you have. So if you have, a lot of real estate, as they say, then you really don't want to use a ton of highlight. You would want to use a really precise application pretty close to your brow. So it just depends on your objective. And this is the eye that where the lid does not show as much when my face is relaxed. So I'm going to bring that light color even higher than on the other eye, trying to make up for that. So light, bright colors draw things out, make them seem more prominent, and whereas darker colors push back and minimize. So this eye, if you look closely, I didn't put a ton of the white. I didn't go up very high. The other eye, the one I'm on right now, I am going to go up all the way to my crease because I'm trying to even them out through the use of color. And then I'm bringing it down. All right, so now we're moving on to a mid-tone. I'm using a matte neutral brown called Hazelnut. I'm applying it with sort of a small barrel brush because I want to be more precise this time. And here I'm pointing out that where my crease ends is really low because my eyes are droopy. So I don't want to start there. I want to start higher than that. And where my actual crease is, when my eyes are open and relaxed, you can't see that at all. So you have to go higher than that. So you kind of eyeball it and decide where ideally do you want your crease to be. So I'm starting right about here, not too far out, definitely not too far down. And then I'm just going to create a crease just by coming in and just making an arc. So this again is different than the brush that I normally use because this is a darker, more dramatic look. And so this brush is depositing that mid-tone in a more specific area, and it's depositing a little more color than I normally use. So the bigger and fluffier the brush, the less pigment is deposited, or the sheerer it is. And then again, this eye, I want to help out as much as possible. So I'm going to do the same dark shade, same process for the most part, except I want to be really careful that I don't bring it down too far on top of the white that I just laid down, because the whole point is I want my lid to really show up. So I am going to do kind of that same arc. And keep in mind, I didn't have my glasses on. All right, so doing the same arc, being careful not to come down too low, just on the outer edges, just to kind of help, merge everything together. But again, I don't want to cover up what I just did with that light shade. So I'm being kind of careful to keep on the outside here. And this is still that same light mid-tone, medium mid-tone called hazelnut. So then I decided I better blend it out. I grabbed a long tapered brush. It is a blending brush, just to kind of smooth everything out. I typically use a huge magnified lighted mirror in my bedroom. And so when I'm doing these videos and I don't have any of that, I really can't see the placement very well. So I apologize for that. And here I'm just trying to blend it out so that it looks better to all of you viewers. All right, so now we're ready to put on the dark color in the outer edge, the outer corner. And it's the same color that I typically use, called Cinnabar, but I'm putting it on a little heavier than normal. So when you do the outside, typically you hear about the V, or the outer corner, pizza slice or whatever. But I've had a tendency to do a different technique lately. So I apologize that my lips don't match what I'm saying right now. All right, so here's the dark color. And I'm just kind of patting it on and then bringing it straight down pretty much. I will give it a V in a second, but right now I'm really focusing on keeping it in a controlled area, not too far out. This is something new for me, but I have learned that because my eye is droopy, that if I keep this dark shade closer in, that it just looks better. It gives me a better lift than if I go way out. So this is different, because I used to come out quite a bit, like pretty much underneath the tail of my brow. And now I'm keeping it a little closer in. But now that it's laid down, I'm going to blend it into the crease. And like I said, this is a shade that I normally use, Cinnabar, but I am putting it on a little heavier than normal. So then I also am kind of buffing that outer area as well. And so there's kind of like two things that balance each other. One is like you're using a precise placement, but then the other thing is that you also need to blend. But blending doesn't mean you're wiping. It doesn't mean you're wiping it off. You are just really just trying to smooth it out and help it just kind of merge with everything else. All right, so same thing on the other side. And just the main thing is that you are just not going too far out. This is if your eyes are droopy. Now, if you have beautiful, elongated, almond-shaped eyes, this is not a worry for you. But my eyes have always been droopy, and now they're droopier because of age. They're hooded. So I got all kind of issues that I'm kind of showing you how to address right here. And again, I want to keep as much of the white on this lid as possible, but I am covering the outer maybe third of the mobile part of my lid. That's another thing that I've noticed, is that when the white goes all the way to the end of my lashes, it drags my eye down. So I've started bringing my darker color onto the lid, as you can see. So lots of changes for me. So far the changes are, I have to be careful where my light placement is to balance out my eyes. I have to be careful where my dark placement is to give me some lift. So that has been an adjustment. All right, so here's something that I add primarily because of the camera. And this is unusual for me, because I usually say not to put on shimmery shades where you're crepey, and I am crepey on my lids. However, when you are on camera and there's a certain kind of light on you, especially if a ring light, that shimmer on your lid really looks nice. So I'm using my finger to deposit it just right in the center, kind of rocking my finger back and forth to, to get it on there. And this was Moonstone. And I'm not super good at this one, but it really does make it look nice. So I put that on in the middle, and then I need to go back and kind of smooth out the edges, but I don't want to get rid of it, so I have to be careful. So I kind of, where the light is going up into the crease, I want to buff that off pretty much, because I really just want it to be on the lid, the mobile part of my lid. And then I might come along and just do the edges. So this is the brush that I use to blend the inner area. And so I'm bringing it down also to blend that shimmer into the matte. So hopefully that makes sense. And it looks like I'm brushing the whole darn thing, but really I'm sticking to the edge pretty much. And then I have another brush that I use to blend the darker color. And so then I'm going to go along the outside and kind of blend this. It still looks kind of funny, up close, because you can tell that it doesn't go all the way out, where my brow ends. But by the time we get done blending and adding lashes and liner, and brows and everything, it'll be fine. All right, so I'm going to take a quick sec and finish this up, buffing that out. I have to take a look at myself with my glasses. Oh my gosh, this is not easy. This is not for the faint of heart. All right, now we're going to line with black liner. And like I've said so many times, a thick black liner, top and bottom, is too heavy, too much. It closes our eyes up and it just looks too harsh as we age. But I love a black liner on my top lid close to my lashes, because I think it helps really define your lash line, and it just gives it just completes the look. But you do have to be careful. And I know I look like I'm really yanking on my eyes. I'm really tethering them. I'm trying to hold them straight. The creepier your eyes are, the harder it is to get a straight line. Am I right? So sometimes you have to pull it taut, but you don't want to be yanking on it, because that is a delicate area and you can stretch it. But this is the one exception where I let myself kind of pull on that a little tiny bit. So I'm not done with the liner. I'm going to go over it with powder liner. So I know it's not super precise, but what I like to do is go over that with an eyeshadow top and bottom. And while I'm thinking of it, you could use a liquid liner. You could also tight line and go underneath your lashes, whatever floats your boat. Just the idea is you want to get some drama on that top layer. So this time I'm using a very skinny brush, and I'm putting a dark, dark brown on it. I'm going underneath my lashes. So instead of a black liner, I'm using a dark brown shadow. So it's dramatic, but it also is a little softer. So that's the difference. So I'm doing that both sides, and then I'm going to go along the top lashes as well. And the benefit of that is that I can kind of smooth out that black line where it's, maybe not quite as precise as it should be. And also, I do this primarily because I wear glasses. You really don't have to line underneath, but the look that I'm doing today, I did. I did the dark shadow top and bottom, so that's why I'm showing you how I did that. So now I'm taking that same dark shadow and I'm just going along the top lashes, but again, I'm smoothing out that black liner. All right, so next we're going to do mascara, and what I like to do for a dramatic look is to do my first coat with something that is smooth and lightweight. So this is a lengthening mascara. It's called Great Heights, and it's grabbing each lash and coating it to the end, just emphasizing the length of the lashes, and it's a very natural look. But the reason I use this as a base is because it's so smooth. So I'll put this on both lashes, and then I'll go over that with a more dramatic mascara. So after that's laid down, then I go over it with what's called Panorama. This is depositing fibers, so this is thickening. It's adding a lot of drama. There are different zones with the wand, and so depending on how you're holding the wand, it's applying fibers in different areas. So you want to make sure that you turn it, that you're getting all the benefits of it. And just in general, you start at the base of your lash, wiggle the wand to grab all the lashes, and just take it out to the end. This has a fan on the tip so that after I've done that, then I can sort of fan the lashes out, thus the Fanorama name. And this has become my mascara of choice recently. And then I also like to use that fan tip to do my lashes underneath, which I have very fine, barely there lashes. So I don't dip back in for more product. I just use whatever's still on the wand at that point, and that's usually enough. But again, if you don't wear glasses, you don't need to do anything with that lower lash line. All right, now we're on to brows, and I think that this definitely made a big impact with the overall dramatic look. I'm using the brow powder and a small barrel brush and just going over my brows. It really couldn't be any easier. I think the difference for me is that this is darker than I normally do. I usually use hazelnut, but this is an actual brow powder in brunette, and so it deposits more. And even though it seems kind of sloppy, you can go back with a spoolie, and also there's some highlight powder, brow powder, to kind of clean up the edges. So it definitely is a more dramatic look because of how dark it is. And anytime you use a lot of drama, you do have to be careful with the application. So I kind of lay it down and then go back and look at myself more closely and even things out and make sure it looks nice and sculpted and not sloppy. But definitely the dark brows had a lot to do with the drama of this look. So then I want to go over it with a spoolie to get off any excess powder or whatever, and then put my brows in place. But I noticed right away that I took off too much on that brow. It's a balancing act. But I do like using a spoolie after I use any kind of brow product. So boom, there they are after I've kind of looked at myself in my up close mirror and gone over them again and made them a little more precise. So this is the final look. And as I back farther away from the camera and the light, gives my whole look a softer glow, you don't see the wrinkles and the freckles, but you do see the drama. So a lot of times when you think that my makeup looks so flawless, it has so much to do with the lighting. All right, so this is the finished look with my hair down. It's pretty similar to what I did last time. It's almost impossible for me to repeat it because I don't think I ever do it exactly the same way twice, but I think you'll get the idea. I would love to hear your takeaways, and if you have something to add, please, by all means, comment so that we can all benefit. I can't say it often enough, but we are learning and growing together. We're navigating middle age and beyond together. I have a fabulous new freebie, great segue. It's called Age Reversing Beauty Hacks. And if you haven't snagged that yet, there's going to be a link in the description of the video. So you for sure want to get your hands on that. And if you have any questions, comments, anything at all, I'd always love to hear from you. I respond personally to every single one. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you next time.